Perfect. Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'll be talking to you today a little bit about university-industry collaboration, maybe more holistically, and then we'll zoom in into a few practical examples. As you will notice throughout my presentation is most of the examples also include universities, but we'll focus on the industry perspective and what it actually means for them. First of all, who am I? As already previously introduced, my name is Arno MEERMAN. I'm the CEO of the University Industry Innovation Network. We are a global organization that started out as a community provider for universities and industry to facilitate conversations around anything to do with the future of higher education institutions. We have over the last few years adopted a role as well as a research organization. My background originally is also in research. That's how I started out in Germany just over a decade ago on this particular topic. We are currently involved in, I would say, 15 to 20 large research engagements, mainly international engagements. And then we do quite a bit of consulting and advisory work as well for universities globally, as well as provide training to individuals, either professional staff, I might use that word every now and then throughout this presentation, professional and administrative staff, leadership of the institutions, and academics as well. Academics, both the research as well as the educators, of course. We do this on a, as I mentioned, on a global scale, and we really try to advance this field and support and help anyone that we can. You've seen on the slide a number of the universities and organizations that we work with. You will also see that when it comes to the industry stakeholders, ASML, CSL, Siemens, Salesforce, those are all big names. I might touch upon that again in just a bit. However, first starting off with this, I just want to maybe clarify a few false perceptions of the universities. Universities started out thousands of years ago already, first as monasteries, institutes of education, and that's exactly what they did. We had people in roles where it was knowledge provision, one directional, someone standing on a pedestal when it comes to the more Christian model of it in Europe, and directing the knowledge towards the listeners. Then at some point depending on the country, if it is the UK or Germany or France, we have a few different models when it comes to revolutions within higher education. We added the mission of research to it. A model that people often refer to is the Humboldt model, for example, starting out in Germany, one a politician and the other one an academic, the two brothers. And it started also the university that was named after them, the Humboldt University then. Adding research to it. We need to make sure that what we are providing to our students, that the knowledge is unbiased and is based on actual facts, and that it's continuously advanced. Now we have advancement. And then around about the 1900s, some universities started technology transfer offices. And ever since, and accelerated later in the 1980s, 90s, there became this very strong focus on we need to transfer technology and knowledge from the university into society, and we do it by patenting and licensing and all these other transactional forms of engagement. Whereas when you'd ask me and many of my colleagues, and what it actually is about, is universities are there to provide education to anyone, conduct research, sometimes in isolation, maybe fundamental research, blue sky research, but often more in collaboration, advancing our society, addressing employability, creating entrepreneurs, creating innovators, creating economic growth, but also social growth, and having a strong impact on our society in terms of advancing knowledge and advancing subsequently the knowledge society. What is in it for industry when collaborating with universities? So if you'd ever have a conversation with them, what is it about? Well, they are not really interested in your grant project necessarily. Getting them on board and going to them, which happens far too often. I hear this all the time. It's like, the requirement by the European Commission, the requirement by the Vietnamese government, the requirement by the Australian government, the requirement of someone who's providing me the grant is we need two industry stakeholders. So you get on the phone, you go ring them, you go like, hey, I need someone on board for this project. Can you please sign this document for me? But what is in it for them? What is in it for them is access to knowledge. It's access to technologies and resources that come out of your research project. It's maybe involving them into your curriculum, them getting access to talent. That's what they want to get out of it. Access to innovative startups that come out of universities. These are just some of the three key benefits for industry stakeholders when it comes to their engagement and collaboration with universities more holistically. We've conducted a range, as I already referenced. We are involved in quite a few research projects, and I just wanted to reference one of the larger ones we've ever undertaken, which is over 17,000 respondents. This was a survey, a very extensive survey, and I just wanted to provide you with three key insights here. On this slide, you see something called motivators, facilitators, and barriers. So what are the motivators of collaboration? What are the facilitators of that same collaboration? And what are the barriers or the challenges that we face when we want to collaborate? And then we have on the, so that's the vertical axis. And then we have on the horizontal axis, we have three icons at the top. One is the universities. The other ones are the academics or the researchers and educators. And then the latter part on the right-hand side of the slide are the industry stakeholders. When you look at this, you would obviously immediately see that the facilitators are aligned. And this is, of course, a synthesis of those results, right? But we see that the facilitators are aligned. We see a large discrepancy in motivators. And what then often happens is, that's a problem because we don't share the same drivers. We are not motivated by the same elements. And then we have the barriers. But if we don't look at that, if we first look at those motivators, that's actually not true, because what academics want is they want to make sure that their research makes it into society, it has an impact. The universities want to make sure that innovation and knowledge, either through research or to their students, make it into society. And industry wants to get access to those two things: innovation, research outcomes at a high technology readiness level. Sorry, that was a bit of a tongue twist in the morning. And of course, the graduates, when it comes to the talent, their future employees, their future entrepreneurs, their future innovators internally. So they want to get access to that. So it's not actually conflicting as long as we accept that these are the things that we're being motivated by. Industry is not necessarily motivated by putting some government logo on a grant project. I've heard many times already, there's actually BASF for one, who have at some point stakeholders have said, we're not engaging in these projects because the financial administration of them is too complicated. We'd rather pay you as the university directly for just doing this for us, as long as we don't have to be part of this whole grant process. They don't care about the money. They don't want to jump through all those hoops. They just want to do things simple and straightforward. It's, however, also about building that relationship. And it's about making sure that we overcome our cultural differences between the institutions. For example, time frame, the different types of language issues, legal barriers, etc. And I might touch upon that again in a bit if time allows. I just quickly wanted to, I'm just going to show you a few case studies coming up. I just wanted to use a slide. I've used this in the last presentation as well when I was talking here at ASEF. I just wanted to quickly show you the different ways we can collaborate, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're not talking necessarily just about big strategic partnerships or research and other R&D related activities, but also maybe highlight the different modes in which we can engage when we talk about, for example, education. And here you see on the vertical axis, we have transactional running through relational, so the more strategic partnerships at the bottom. And then we have on the horizontal axis, we have three categories: research, education, and student-driven. Research-driven, we can start with some things like just being what industry would refer to an extended workbench of the industry stakeholders. They have an immediate need. They have problem X, Y, Z defined, nice framework. They throw it over the fence and say, can you please solve this for us? Here is a bag of money. Please address it if you can. That is something that some institutions are really good at. Some institutions would respond towards that and say, ho, 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 we are not your commercial research provider. We want to make sure it's a mutually beneficial relationship beyond the financial benefits of it. But however, in order to get there, that takes a bit of time. You might be talking more about sponsorships, R&D consulting, academics being involved in problem-solving activities, or at some point more collaborative R&D projects at the start together define the problem, what you're trying to address, define what you're looking to get out of it, and then collaboratively address it in through research and development. In education, we're talking, for example, about lifelong learning, professional education, but why not just throw a few ideas over the fence from industry into education, run hackathons around it, innovation challenges, challenge-based projects. And if you want to do it on a more strategic level, dual study programs. So this is just to trigger your thinking a little bit in terms of what's possible. Just two very short and brief bite-sized cases. What can you do to start out small? Because that's actually really important, starting out small. Why not source your local industry stakeholders, in particular regionally? And these are two things that we did in Germany when I was working at Münster University. Two things that we did there was we called upon local stakeholders and we said, what are your innovation challenges? What are you struggling with? It can be a market research study, it can be anything else. And then we got a group of master and bachelor students, the master students supervising the bachelor students, to tackle that problem for them in the classroom. The industry stakeholders actively visited the lectures, they contributed to it, they came in as coaches, they got access to the students, they got to see who are the best students. They gave the best students an internship position or a job in the case of a last year master's student graduate. And then they also got an answer to their innovation challenge. They paid €7,500 for it, for which for them in Germany, the German context, was peanuts. They didn't necessarily care about the money, and they got two outcomes: a little bit of innovation and talent. The discovery panel is a more entrepreneurial approach, sourcing ideas internally. What kind of research do we have that is potentially ready for the market? Let's have a group of students run market tests on it, and then let's see if we can externally find any investors, local small and medium-sized enterprises, or other stakeholders that are willing to uptake that same technology. Now, elevating that on a far more strategic level, a collaboration between SAP and Linköping University out in Sweden. Just very briefly, I'll have only a few more minutes. I'll very briefly go through these examples and just highlight a few things. I'll share the slides with you afterwards, so don't worry about all the text that's on the slide. A few things I want to highlight. SAP managers work as adjunct professors within the university. Why? Access to talent, access to research, staying connected, building trust, all those aforementioned items. They sit on the university board, they teach courses, they supervise theses, and these are models that we often see with Deloitte, KPMG, Big Four, anything with accounting and legal and these kinds of aspects. And those firms have done it for the last 50 to 100 years. What they do is they teach so that they get access to those students. That's what they want. The university gets the latest knowledge and information from practice integrated into the curriculum, also benefits that way. So do the industry stakeholders. And it's really important to acknowledge that and replicate those kinds of models across different types of industries. Unternehmertum. Now we can focus on the Technical University Munich, that's what TUM stands for. I just want to focus on how this actually started and why it started. It was the BMW, or actually the Porsche family, that invested over 250 million into this initiative. They said, if we want Bavaria or the region around Munich to be successful, we need to retain talent, we need to become more innovative, and becoming more innovative means upskilling and reskilling our current staff and getting access to talented students and getting access to startups. We need more startups, we need to drive this. They invested that money, and Unternehmertum as an entity, as an activity, is almost as big as a Technical University Munich these days in terms of its size of its campus. It's an independent entity funded by industrial clients, and its sole focus is setting up makerspaces, bringing people together through those makerspaces, providing place for startups, getting access to venture capital, and bringing all those ingredients together at one physical space and place. And you might have noticed how often I say regional and working with regional stakeholders. That proximity bit is really important when driving innovation. It is a lot more challenging to collaborate in an online environment as we are today and working like that together than it is this might be during COVID, a little bit difficult to imagine, but then if we'd all be sitting in the same room. The University of Twente, just as another example, a government initiative. The region was in decline, the textile industry went bankrupt. This was the 1960s in the Netherlands, east side, close to the German border. And the government stepped in and we said, we need a knowledge provider, but that has an entrepreneurial approach towards it. And that is collaborating with our local stakeholders to drive innovation, help them solve the problems within industry, but also to make sure that those same industry stakeholders get access to student startups. The university is the university in the Netherlands with the most startups created. One other example from the Science Park out in Amsterdam, I'll focus not on the university, but on what all those startups are doing there and what the industry stakeholders are doing there. I'm doing this at the moment from my home in Amsterdam. I could as well have been at the Science Park because UIN is based there. One of the tenants just above our office is Qualcomm. You might know Qualcomm because they're a competitor of Broadcom, and Qualcomm is the producer of the majority of the chips that you'll find in your laptop phones and tablets. Why is that important? The University of Amsterdam is very strong in terms of data science, AI, and anything that has to do with that, with those kinds of activities. There is also a startup village, which is the startup hub of the University of Amsterdam, based on the same science park. So what did Qualcomm want? They wanted to be close to the action. They're funding professorship positions of the university. They're funding labs. They're funding postdocs. They're funding PhD students. And due to the proximity, they get access to the startups. They get access to university spin-offs. And we've been based there for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. And I've seen them purchase already 2 university spin-offs that came out of the University of Amsterdam. One reason was to get access to the research and innovation within those spin-offs. The other is the talent that came out of it. ASML, similar type of collaboration here on the Science Park. And there's a number of other larger entities that are there. Just one other example. Sorry, yeah?
Yeah, we need to go finishing here because we need to give the floor to the other 2 speakers.
Perfect. I'll just sum up and just give them one last example before concluding and providing the last slide of the presentation. One last example is coming out of ZEISS and the Innovation Hub, the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. What has ZEISS done? They've built an innovation hub right on campus. Again, getting access to the startups, providing education to the students, and providing a home for researchers of Karlsruhe Institute of Technology to come in to the ZEISS Innovation Hub and benefit from the research space that they make available. That is your real brick and mortar kind of collaboration and a real strategic type of collaboration between the different types of entities to drive entrepreneurship and innovation. I'll skip these. I'll show those as later on. You can get, we've published a book on the future of universities that contains a lot of these case studies and a lot of these types of models. You can get access to that book by just visiting to our website, and we've activated a coupon for you, which you'll see on this slide. It's about the future of universities, imagining where the university can stand in 2040. We've done a global, an Australian, a North American, and the times of crisis as a response to COVID edition. You can find them on our website, and you'll find more information on those in my slides. I thank you for your attention today, and I'll stick around for some questions later on, and I look forward to the other speakers.